Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday Jam because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. And afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and share their knowledge and experience with you. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, John. Good day. And how are you doing, sir?
Well, Denny, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
It's an absolute honor to have someone like you on the podcast. I absolutely adore people like you, and it's always an absolute joy to talk to someone like you. John, the program will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How did you get there? How did you know that this was the way to go? So, that's what you do for a living, please.
Well, I'm currently a fiction writer, four novels in publication and two under contract. And I have 22 published short stories in various magazines and anthologies. Uh, it's not much of a living, but fortunately, I'm in a stage of life where I can get by with less income. Um, I, my road started as I was a practicing veterinarian in Michigan.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, and I went from that to become a public health researcher in government and industry. And I went from that to a medical writer, which rekindled my love of reading and writing. And around 10 years ago, I focused totally on my fiction. And so I'm only really writing fiction now.
That's amazing. I have had a similar conversation a while ago, and that's why I said it's always an absolute joy to talk to people like you because it's like talking to a spirit that doesn't carry any weight, you know?
Well, I got some weight.
That ain't the weight I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's always amazing because it's just a conversation is just perfect. That's what I love about those conversations. Now, granted, that's an interesting start. All right, medical field, writing, pretty good. Obviously, you're highly intelligent. Obviously, you were an adult when you decided to take that road. You could have chose any number of ways to go, but you decided with that one. Now, John, the reason I'm asking that is because at least it's here in Europe, but I'm noticing it, it's elsewhere as well. People tend to go to colleges, universities, and they have that stigma, it's for the diploma. Once you get it, your life is set. I think that may have been the case decades ago for a very short period of time. I don't think it's the case anymore, and that's why I call it stigma. I'm not against academia. I graduated, master's degree, college master's degree. I knew what I was going to do when I was 16. So I'm not in that bracket, but a lot of people are. I'm sure you've noticed that as well. You're in the United States, there is something there I'm not exactly familiar with called student loans, and that makes it even more difficult. But I'm not talking about the money because I've lost money. You've lost money. Everybody lost money, right? But it's about the time. You're going over there at the age of 18, 19. You're staying there for, let's say, 5 years, and you're a young adult who has a piece of paper that doesn't have a lot of meaning most of the time, not all, but most of the time. And you end up being bitter. Now, you can be bitter on your own. That's fine, I suppose. Not, but it's fine, I suppose. But then you end up with a family and the children afterwards, and you can't hide that bitterness. Look at all the brilliant actors we have. All of them brilliant. It doesn't matter how good of an actor you are, that bitterness comes out at some point. That's why most of them don't tend to live a good life. That they are a spirit that carries weight. See, that's what I was going. But you knew exactly where to go. Was this a gut feeling? Were you somehow encouraged by a friend, by a mentor, by a relative? Why did you choose that road?
Well, when I was in high school and undergrad, I had,
Speak a little bit louder for me, please.
sure, when I was in high school and undergrad, I had three passions, still have them today.
Pretty
Uh,
good.
English reading and writing, always been an avid reader, and I enjoyed all my writing classes. History, big history buff, been studying military history for 60 years, and science. And so I had to decide where I was going to focus, and I decided on science. As you know, it gives you a better opportunity for a good career
Yeah.
than something like history, where you can, if you get really good at it, you can teach somebody else your hobby. Uh, and so that's what I did. And once I focused on that, these other things had to go on the back burner. They were just hobbies. So I've really been able to swing through and try a lot of different things in science. Like I said, veterinary medicine, got a PhD and a master's in public health, did that for about 15 years, did freelance medical writing for about 8, 10 years. And it allowed me to circle back to something I'm also passionate about, which is writing and reading. The best advice I ever got on how to be a good writer is read a lot and write a lot. And that's kind of what I'm doing.
Practice. Practice makes it perfect. I I really agree with you, and I want to share with you a very funny story. I talked to a guy, didn't get the chance to interview him. He's from Iran, Persian guy. He lives here, and he's specialized in historic manner of Sanskrit language. I like that's amazing, but and I went with the same attitude, right?
Uh-huh.
Is there a lot of job for that? Because you just can teach it to someone else. There are tons of clay tablets that are waiting to be translated, and there are like 15 people on the planet. There's enough work for that.
Well, that's something I heard somebody said that really resonated with me was they said, some of the stupidest advice you can get is uh, try to make a career out of your passion. Now, it's great if you can do that. And
Yeah,
most people, you can, like I said about history, you can be passionate about it, but there's a limited number of opportunities to make it into a career. Same with just English, getting an English degree, for example.
yeah,
But what they said is find something you can do well that you can make a career out of, that there's a demand for. And like you said, it's funny how people end up in different things. There's a demand for it. We don't necessarily, who would think of I'm going to become a street language uh, translator.
yeah.
No one would think of that, but you kind of, if you're smart, if you're looking, you can fall into these open doors and develop a good career around it.
So yeah, absolutely. I want to open a dash here because I don't think I had a lot of chances to talk to someone whose career is structured that way. I'm pretty certain that at some point there was a bit of a doubt here and there. Because I have never really changed careers, but I have switched between companies and teams, and there's always some doubt, like, am I doing the right thing? Was that a good move? Maybe I should have think it through. How did you deal with that voice?
Well, for example, I really wanted to get into veterinary school and become a practicing veterinarian, and I did. But over the first 3, 4, 5 years, I started to have some doubts for a couple of reasons. First was there's a lot more stress than I knew there'd be. Uh,
Really?
it's a stressful profession. You're on your feet all day, making lots of life and death decisions. Now they're animals, but still, if you're a compassionate person, this is stressful on you. And two, and this is also part of the stress, you're dealing with the public. Some people are wonderful. Some people are really hard to get along with.
Yeah.
And especially when you've got, 3 full exam rooms and people piling up in the waiting room, they tend to get a little nasty.
Yeah.
That also really gets difficult to deal with after a while. So that's when I made my decision that I was going to go back to school and get advanced training. And I settled on public health epidemiology and had a good career with that.
It's yeah, it's right about you're right about that. And to be honest, because I never judge people, even the people that are nasty. I'm trying to understand them.
Sure.
When they're nasty, they're nasty. I'm just staying away from them. John, sometimes I'm nasty too, and I don't want to. Bro, I don't want to be that way, but sometimes I just am, and I'm just working on myself not to be. That's pretty much it. I do have a fourth question.
Okay.
I never put it in the description of the video just because I love the reaction. Of all the reactions, I've always enjoyed the reactions of people like you, writers, musicians, because it's that kind of an energy. John, my audience is mostly most from Europe, but other places as well. But they all have something in common. They're mostly students. Am I studying the right thing? Is this for me? That office job that I get, for example, is this for me? Am I doing the right thing? Money is good, but is this
Sure.
everything? And that's why I wanted to open that bracket before to lead into that question. If you can give my audience a solid advice and an example from your experience, from your career, what will it be?
I would say to people, don't be afraid to make a change if you're doing something you really don't like, or if it's negatively impacting you. Um, I've known a lot of people who worked in careers on assembly lines and things like that. It was a job and it paid their way and it got them to raise their family. And that's all wonderful. But if you're in a situation where it's making you ill or it's making you very uncomfortable, don't just keep doing it because you don't know what else to do. You can find something else to do. There's lots of opportunities. For example, I was in veterinary medicine, but I had medical training. So it was a relatively quick transition to doing some, uh, I think I only had to take a master's degree for a year to where I was doing epidemiology, using that knowledge of medicine for research purposes, along with statistics and other things. So it's scary. Change is scary. We're all stuck with inertia, but take a deep breath, look at the possibilities. And if you need to move on, move on. And you know what? The worst that can happen is you find that what you moved on to is not for you either. You can move on to something else. And as you say, the money is not important, but it's important enough that you got to make a living. You got to pay your way. And but there's lots of opportunities where you can do that. So many people they go to college because they don't know what else to do. You
Exactly. Thank you.
you could get a job if you're good with your hands, plumbers, electricians, uh, AC maintenance. I knew a friend who got an English degree, good friend from high school, didn't know what to do, so he went into elevator maintenance and repair.
Yeah.
He had a 35-year career doing that, and loved it. So there's always something to do if you're just willing to take a chance. Keep your options open. Make sure that you're not stepping into something that's going to cost you a lot of money and get no return. But make the change if you need to.
I firmly believe that that kind of attitude, I don't talk about relationships because I'm definitely not an expert on this one, but that's my attitude when it comes to relationships. John, if it's killing me, if it's crushing me, I'm walking away. I am not going to try to fix it. I
Right.
am I am not smart enough, wise enough, and I never will be wise enough to fix the whole world. I can't. I'm not going to try it. It is what it is. And I've told that story on the podcast as well. Exactly that. When somebody is not doing a good job, but you can see it in their eyes. That's not a stupid person. It's just not for them. And I had an intern like that, exactly like that. And because I'm always direct, I don't have the energy or the capacity to pretend on any level because you start lying, then you have to remember what you said. I just simply can't. So I was just everything was out there. Like, listen, what are you doing here? This is not for you. What are you doing here? And it was quite a good company, worldwide known, mostly known for producing printers.
Okay.
Yeah, that one. Uh, and I said, well, my mother always wanted me to work here. I don't like it here. I don't hate it, but I don't like it. I'm like, why don't you call your mom and let me get her on board? I would love to have her on the team. We're not discriminating, young, old, women, men. I'm totally fine. She wants to be here, that's fine, but you definitely don't want to be here. And we have those kind of internships, where technically you're going into a tech school, but you're paying them for
Right.
6 months. You're paying the minimal salary, and they're pretty much teaching you. If they like you, they'll keep you, and you'll be an employee there. And I think it's actually a pretty good bargain because the least you can do is lose a little bit of money, like minimum wage. It's not that big, so it's fine. But yeah, and those are different elevators. Yeah, I just don't want the audience to be left with the wrong impression. You're going over there with shirt and everything. You're just pressing a few buttons and calibrating a few wires here and there. It's not like what we've seen in the movies in the 50s, 60s, stuff like that. Not like
Right.
that. Everything's electricity now. It's ridiculously good and interesting. So I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, and another thing I would say to people, because I worked in a lot in a corporate setting. I worked for government. I also worked in
Yeah.
big companies. And a lot of times people will stay in something because maybe they like their boss or a couple of people they work with. They're not really happy, but they don't want to let them down.
Yeah.
And I said that to a boss. I loved the boss, did not like the job. And I said, I don't want to let you down. And he goes, always think about what's best for you
Yeah.
over what's best for the company. Because if things are reversed, the company will think of what's best for the company. So you don't owe me anything. We're sorry to lose you, but you should do what's going to be best for your life. And I think those are wise words for people who are in that situation. You want to be a nice person. You don't want to let down your boss. You like your boss, um, but you know they understand. By and large, people, especially in industry, understand that people move.
Yep.
There's no shame in it.
There was more of a friend than a boss. I understand why you
Yeah,
call that.
absolutely,
That
absolutely. Still friends with them today.
that's amazing. Yeah, after that kind of an advice, absolutely. That was the friendliest thing a man can do for a colleague. My career also started in the government sector, not because I wanted to, but 2012, I was just fresh out of university. I graduated the University of Coburg in Denmark. 2012 was difficult, so there weren't a lot of open places. So I started there. Honestly, I hated every second of it. I didn't. Well, yeah, I guess I hated most of the people there, but not all. But I hated the structure in general. And I'm always giving that example, Johnny. You remember that movie with Johnny Depp? I forgot the name, but he's ridiculously famous, and he's playing a pirate, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Pirates of the Caribbean, I think. Is it?
yeah, probably. And he goes into a ship, and the pirates of that ship, they're all like part of the furniture, right? One is holding a lamp. It's exactly like that with those government employees. The moment you walk in there, they put in roots. You're
Yeah,
part of the sofa,
there's a
part of
lot
the
to drive
desk.
you crazy in government.
Yeah, 100 years before the mass. You tell them that they're like, only 100? Well, what happened after those 100 years? That's them. And I have always, they never liked that. Never really did. And with that said, John, it was an absolute honor to have you here. Please gather all the links about the books and everything.
Sure.
Send them to me so
And
that I
and,
can.
and I just want to say that
Absolutely.
everybody can find my work on Amazon at jbukowskiauthor.com. I'll send the
Yeah.
links to you. And the novels that I've done, if you like books like say like Michael Crichton and things that have a little bit of technical material to kind of get you a look behind the science, make you feel like you're really involved in what's going on. Check out my titles like Project Suicide and Bad Pennies. Check out Time. I think you'll enjoy them.
And I'm absolutely certain that they will.
Thank you very much, Denny.
Right on. Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Gap, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.